Hotline show. Today is February 23rd, 2025. It is the 51st Hotline show. Well, as you might have seen, it was snowing and then it turned into an ice storm, which was wild. Usually an ice storm comes and then it's all icy and then a day or two later it melts. But not this time. This whole week, it's been below freezing, so ice is still everywhere. Just a sheet of ice from my house to the studio to the chicken coop to the garage. It's a nightmare. It's the worst it's ever been. Now, because it's so slippery, I was like, what am I going to do about this? And people are like, get spikes, get micro spikes. So I did. I went to place not too far from me called Alice's Wonderland, and I got something called nanospikes. Micro spikes are different than nanospikes. It's made by the same company. Kahtoola is the name. I made a little review of the micro spikes, so I'm going to play that for you right now. Check it out. Do you see this? It's all ice. It was snow, only maybe 3 or 4 inches, and then it rained, but it was ice rain. So it created just a sheet of ice. It's a little embarrassing. I've seen it here once or twice before, but usually it happens, it only lasts a day or two, and then it all melts. But this storm happened, and then the temperature set to be below freezing, not rising above freezing, for at least 5 days. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't really shovel it away. You can't do anything. I needed to get micro spikes. Okay, I keep saying micro spikes. I mean nano spikes. Same company. Micro spikes are actually bigger than nano spikes. Put it up here. There's actually another spike. Should have gotten the middle spike thing. Whatever. The local outdoor shop, they sell these. They're called Nanospikes by Kahtoola. You just wrap them around your boot and they just provide traction. Future Noah jumping in here. In retrospect, I really wish I bought the exo spikes instead of the nano spikes. I know I keep saying micro spikes, but you know the difference, right? This isn't confusing in any way whatsoever. Put on my other boots so you can get a sense of how slippery it is. There's no protection. See that? Look. Like you just can't really walk around like this. Is dangerous. Watch what happens when I put on the nano spikes. Just breaks through the ice, gives you traction. It's amazing. Perfect. It's exactly what I needed. I think they're like $55 a pair, but you have them forever because you're only going to use them every now and then. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed my review of the Kahtoola Nanospikes. Back to you, Noah. Okay, so that's the Nanospikes. This is the box right here, in case you're gonna order. Maybe I'll put an Amazon link below. You can buy from the website directly. If you don't like Amazon, I understand. But I'm gonna make an affiliate link. So if you click that, I'll make 30 cents if you buy it. But you could buy anything. Just click that link, go to Amazon and buy, I don't know, a book or something. What else is going on? Oh, well, if you're new here, welcome. Thanks for coming. It's the Hotline show. If you don't know, people call. The number's in the description below. They leave a message. They ask a question. Usually the question is about photography, but sometimes it's about other things like what kind of oil you put in your tractor. We've got a ton of calls now, which is amazing. I'm sort of going through it, and it's sometimes hard because a lot of calls are photo related, some are not. I like to mix it up a little bit. If I don't get to your call today, we'll get to it soon. It's in the bank. I'm trying to piece it together so the show flows. You know what I mean? I got a call from my brother. I haven't heard from him in a while, and we should play it because I think it's important.
Hey Noah, it's your brother, David. I wanted to share an anecdote with you about my time in Australia that I think is relevant given some recent comments that have been made by you and your audience recently on the Hotline show. So, as you know, I started visiting Melbourne to go see the live tennis at the Australian Open. I think this was back in 2015 was my first year. And one of the ways in which Australia is a slightly more civilized nation than the United States is that when you attend a big public event, a sporting event like a Grand Slam tennis at the Australian Open, they actually let you bring food into the event. If you go to the US Open in New York, they actually will confiscate food because it's more important to the people running the event that they extract every possible dime out of your pocket while you're on the grounds, and therefore, bringing your own lunch is just unacceptable. So, anyway, I found this cafe my first summer in Melbourne called the Alimentary, and I would stop there for sandwiches. They would have pre-made sandwiches. They'd be ready in the morning. Presumably commuters would stop by and get a sandwich to put in their bag, and they'd have it during their lunch break. So I would get a sandwich, and I just discovered this porchetta sandwich that they were making. It was like porchetta with broccoli rabe, and I can't remember. Maybe there was I think there was a chimichurri. It was a pretty simple sandwich, but delicious. And I would take this into the event and I would eat it for lunch. And I wouldn't get the same sandwich every day. I'm not that kind of person. So anyway, I went back to Australia the following summer for another Australian Open and to hang out in Melbourne, which, I was kind of in the process of falling in love with the city. And I stopped by, I figured okay, well, I'm going to stop by that same cafe because I love that sandwich so much. I took a sandwich into the event. I think I was watching the qualifying round, so it was free to go. And, I just went in and, rocked up to the stadium and kind of sat in the seats and took out my sandwich and unfolded it and bit into it. And there was this white, disgusting, creamy condiment on the sandwich. And I was mystified. I was like, there's not supposed to be mayonnaise in this fucking sandwich. I've been eating this sandwich literally for years, and it never had mayo before. But I was disgusted. I couldn't eat the sandwich. I tried to scrape it off, but there's residue of the mayo on the sandwich. You know how it is. So I go back to the cafe the next day, and I asked them. I'm a little bit indignant because the sandwich has. There's a little card and there's a plate of these sandwiches behind, in the case. And the card in front of the stack of sandwiches says porchetta, broccoli rabe, chimichurri. There's no mention of mayo. And I said to them, I was like, is it normal that there's mayo on these sandwiches? I don't see mayo described as an ingredient. Just looking right in front of me, in front of my face, my eyes do not read the word mayo. And the woman was like, I'm not sure, I have to check. Because, of course, the people working there, they don't know how the sandwiches are made. So she goes and, she talks to her manager, or maybe she just goes and thinks that I'm a fucking crazy person and just doesn't want to talk to me for a minute. Tries to figure out what to say. She comes back and is like, I think they've always had mayo on them. And I'm like, but you can't sell a sandwich with secret mayo. This is the problem. If you told me that there was mayo on the sandwich, I would just opt to get a different sandwich, which was unfortunately what I had to do from then on because they had added mayo to a sandwich that didn't previously have it. But this secret mayo thing is just totally unacceptable, and I just want to make sure your viewers are are aware of this particular problem, and I'm sure you're with me on this. It's gross. I don't know what people are on about. I mean, I guess it's a little weird because really mayo is just it's like oil. It's oil and eggs, and I happen to like both oil and eggs. So it's a little weird that I don't like mayo, I guess, conceptually, but I think it's more about the substance and the texture. So anyway, Noah, miss you, buddy. Hope to talk to you soon. Love the show. Bye.
David, what a story. Wow, there's so much here, a lot to unpack. I'm glad you shared this story with me because this is the #1 anti-Mayo photography YouTube channel in the world. And we need to get the word out that Mayo doesn't belong. Now, hidden mayo, yes, this is awful when you order something thinking that it won't have mayo and then it's there. And like you said, no matter what you do, you take a napkin, you try to rub it off, but it had corrupted the bread, made it all wet. It's always there, that tinge of mayonnaise flavor. It's almost inedible. It's crazy. Porchetta, broccoli, raw chimichurri, and the chimichurri was the wetness. People are always like, when you don't get mayo, they're like, what do you eat a sandwich dry? It's like, if I have to, yeah. But that chimichurri should have taken care of it. So the idea that they would put mayo on top of that is madness. And, I've been thinking about it, and I think it's because a lot of people, just normal people, just default to mayo as if it's a thing that has to happen. So if they don't really respect the customer and themselves, they might just put it on the sandwich willy-nilly, not even thinking that it is disgusting and it needs to be properly labeled. Sometimes they sneak it in with a label. They'll say aioli. Oh, gross. So yeah, David, thanks for sharing. I'm sorry, it sounded like a traumatic experience. Is that why you left Melbourne? Let's do another call. Deborah.
Hey, Noah. It's Deborah from Louisville, Texas. So I broke my wrist back in October, and it kept me out of my studio for a couple of months. It's mostly healed, but I still lack a little bit of mobility and strength, and I come across tasks all the time that seem like they should be easy and small, but I still can't quite accomplish them, like squeezing an alligator clip open, or opening a bottle of paint, or cutting through something thick with a pair of scissors. And this experience made me think a lot about how the body is both very strong and very fragile. It breaks, but it also heals. And it also made me think about how physical limitations affect the choices that we can make in the creative process, whether it's injury or age or other impediments. And I'm glad to see that your injured finger is healing. And I was wondering if it affected your work. And did you find yourself thinking about physical limitations or about how weird and wonderful and complicated bodies are and how that affects the creative process? I guess it's sort of an odd topic, but it was certainly on my mind the past couple of months. Eager to hear your thoughts.
Deborah from Louisville, Texas. Thank you for calling again. Yeah, not an odd topic. It's something that's been on my mind lately over the past year or two because I have been getting injured and I guess been getting older. We're an aging photography YouTube channel. Now, I'm sorry to hear about your injury. That sounds awful, and that's a major break, and I could see that really being a problem when it comes to doing painting and something you need to use your hands, like obviously like this finger situation, which is getting better. I was at the doctor today for a last look because I was worried it was still infected. Fortunately, they said it isn't, and it is just healing, so it looks crazy, which is why I keep it wrapped up. for this view. Anyway, yeah. The bodies are amazing. Isn't it crazy? We can cut ourselves and then it heals, but if you just cut your whole arm off or hand or whatever, it doesn't grow back. Like there's a limit to how much our bodies will do. It would be wild if you did lose a finger and then a new finger grew out, but wonder why that never happened for us. With this injury, the only thing, fortunately, it's my left hand. I'm right hand dominant, so most of the things I have to do with my right hand, I'm fine. Typing was an issue, at least at first. But just that pain, that lingering pain can really slow you down. And I mean, it takes a long time, right? These injuries take time to heal, and then they alter the way you were used to doing things. And it's frustrating. And it has an impact on the work. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of artists who work with and related to a disability that they might have, and that makes a lot of sense. It's so present in their lives. They use that as a form of inspiration. You know, I was thinking a lot about photography specifically, and this art craft hobby that I do and a lot of the people who watch this show do in the realm that I exist in, which is sort of the commercial art editorial zone, where we're like athletes. When you come out, you're young, you come out of school, you hit the ground, you build momentum, you're kind of hot, and you have that time period, those mid-20s into the early 30s, where it's like your prime. And everyone wants you and you can do anything. And if you do get hurt, you heal quickly and you just keep going and you just want to go, much like an athlete. But then, you get to a point where these little things, these little injuries just take you out a little longer than you need to. And then you start realizing that you weren't what you used to be. And I don't think a lot of people think of art as such a physical endeavor. And I've said it before on this show, but I think photography it's 100% a working class profession. We are physical. This is blue collar. We are out, we are working. It's not a desk job. You have to show up. You have to get up. You have to move. You have to lift. You have to bend. You have to travel. It wears you down. It hurts. It gets to the body. And then, when you start looking at yourself, and I'm in my mid-40s now, and it's like, fuck, I never thought the idea that I would have to slow down was even in the realm of possibilities. But now it's like, oh man, I gotta lug this equipment and get on a plane or take this drive, and I'm just like too old for this shit. And it's sad. And so, some people can push it for a long time, and obviously there's a mental aspect to it, and like creativity that isn't just in the physical realm. It's not just a physical act, but it mostly is. So yeah, to me it's sad, like the people who you just want to keep going but you can't, and that it hurts a lot. So Deborah, thanks for calling. I appreciate it. I'm glad you're starting to feel better. It gets better, I think. I've done nothing as serious as that, but lingering pain could be years. And then it goes away and something else will happen. Thank you again. Next caller.
Hi, Noah. Your show has quickly become one of my favorites. My ex, a photographer who once took a snap at my heart, introduced me to your work. And now I'm trying to focus my lens on healing. Any tips on developing a positive outlook after heartbreak? Thanks for inspiring me. Warmly from Tokyo.
Yes, from Tokyo. I'm sorry to hear about that. But thank you for watching the show. I'm glad you're sticking with it. Yeah, healing after a broken heart. Well, I think we talk about this a lot on this show, and it's time. Everything just takes time, and for things like this, emotional heartbreak and struggle, you just gotta wait it out. And I know it can be really painful for a long time, but give it a year, 2 years, 3 years. The longer you wait, and then you look back and you realize these painful moments and memories fade away, and you move on. And you just got to work within that, and know that it will get better, and it can be tough, but you'll be okay. So good luck. Just keep taking those pictures. Thank you. Next caller.
Hi, Noah. It's Lindsay from Vancouver calling again. I hope you're well. Congratulations on 50. I always think you're joking also about hating photographers and thinking we're the worst people in the world. And then you list all the reasons why. And I'm like, no, that totally checks out. So thanks for that. I wanted to let you know I went to Boston. I love it. I think I am maybe an East Coast girl. So I'm going to come back in June and go to New York PhotoWorks. I don't know if you know that one. It's kind of a portfolio review / I think kind of job fair essentially. And I'm curious to know if you have ever done a portfolio review, either yourself or as like a person that reviews. And if you know anything about New York PhotoWorks, I would love to hear about it. Also, I would love to know more about how you keep yourself in the know about tech. I feel like you always have like interesting tech you're trying out. You're trying different lights, I think. I don't know. I just feel like you're kind of a techie guy. And I'm curious to know if you just like have a blog that you read, or if you subscribe to a magazine or something that you get more information from, like try to decide what you want to try. I'd love to know. I always want to be in the loop. I feel like I am not with that. Yeah, have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll talk to you again later. Bye.
Lindsay from Vancouver, thanks for the call. Great to hear from you again. Glad to hear you like the East Coast. Yeah, I think the East Coast is where it's at. Photo reviews, portfolio reviews, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I've heard of New York PhotoWorks. I might have actually gone to it or a variation of that many, many years ago. And I actually had a really bad experience. And I'll talk about that in a second. But by and large, I have conflicted feelings about these things. I mean, beyond the one time that I did a review way early in my career, like maybe 1 or 2 years out of school, I just never really needed to do it. I would just kind of get work naturally. It just sort of came to me. I don't know how or why. It's complicated, but just being in New York and knowing the people that I knew, and one thing led to another, and that's how my career went. So I was never really much of a like having to go meet people. Although I did. There was a time when I had an agent and we set up meetings with art directors and whatnot. So it's complicated. But when it comes to photo reviews and whether or not you should do it, yes, absolutely. I was looking at PhotoWorks and past reviewers, and it looks amazing. It looks like there's a lot of great art directors and agency people that are definitely worth going and meeting and having that face-to-face with. I think it's really important. And in fact, I was looking at it and wondering if I should do it too, just for fun, just to see. But it's pretty expensive, right? I mean, I think just to meet 5 people is something like $900. So that's where I feel like maybe it's not great. I mean, it's an investment in the career. So, we have to figure out the ways in which it will work for us. And I think, if you spend, you're coming from Vancouver, Canada, it sounds like this is going to be like a $5,000 trip when all is said and done. Will that review be worth it? Maybe. I mean, if you get one job that could be well worth it. Two, more than worth it. Depends on how good the job is, right? I mean, if you're meeting with these art directors, big agency, and it's a big commercial shoot, yeah, you can pull in a lot of money. So that might just be well worth the investment. And I would never tell someone not to do it. I would just be like, keep your expectations in check. Now, the review that I did many years ago, you could pick who you wanted to meet. And I remember maybe being late to the sign-in or whatever, but I didn't get my first choice. And then the last slot that I had was with this photographer who is sort of, I was a big fan of his work, and I still am to a certain degree, but he's kind of hot stuff in that era, that like mid 2000s era of New York City photography, art, culture moment. And I was like, okay, I'll meet with him. And I never thought I was like cool enough especially for him. To me, he was like in that sort of like East Village kind of Vice magazine sort of scene. Now, really, like I liked it, I admired it, and I do, like I said, I liked his work, but never felt like that was really who I was. But I remember having the appointment with him, and he was late, and I was sitting there, and I was like, I had my portfolio. Let me get it. So I had my portfolio. It looked like this. Had my name. Remember when people did this? Do people still do this? Can you see my name on there? So I was like, okay, here I am. I probably like sat like this, like waiting. I was like, I'm always like early, and I'm always like eager, especially if I'm meeting someone like that. So I was sitting there, you're now he finally shows up, 5 minutes late or whatever. And he comes, and he goes like this. He's like, and then he goes, and he put 3 ibuprofen on the table. And he's like, and then he took them one by one, swallowed them. And he was like, I'm hungover. And I was like, oh, okay, that sucks. Like, what the fuck? And then he like flipped through my book real slow, one at a time, looking at it. And, maybe that's not bad. I mean, some people will flip through real fast, and you're like, are you even looking? And he like, look, and he was like, I don't think he even had anything to say. He was like, okay, cool. That, and I was like, man, this guy's kind of a dick. And I got nothing out of that. So I will say, meet art directors, meet people who can hire you, but don't meet someone who's like me or him. It was such a waste, and it really just like kind of fucked me up. I never stopped thinking about it. What else? Oh, tech. Well, yeah, I try to be in touch. Not as much anymore. I listen to a few podcasts. They're mostly like Mac related. Like I listen to the Accidental Tech podcast, and I listen to Daring Fireball, and I listen to like the Verge podcast. I listen to something called Grumpy Old Geeks, which I don't necessarily recommend. I feel like people will listen to that and be like, you listen to that? And I actually kind of do. I think they're horrible, but they're good simultaneously, at least to me. But all of those sort of, I enjoy listening to tech as like a hobby because it's something that doesn't matter. I listen to plenty of politics and all this other shit. So it's like nice to hear things that like are low stakes. So I learn about stuff that way. And then of course I was friends with a lot of people in the tech industry, especially in the mid-aughts. So I would learn about things that way. And then of course I'm like terminally online. So Lindsay, thank you so much. Maybe I'll see you at New York Photo Works in June. Last caller. This one special. Let's go.
Hello, Nova. It's Peter from Germany again. I'm so sorry it took so long since my last call, but I've been preparing a special surprise. And top quality takes time, okay? Okay, I've been practicing, and I'm a bit nervous. Okay, deep breath. Now listen up, YouTube, it's the Hotline show. My name is Peter, and this is my flow. We are all here because Noah is great. It's the best show on YouTube. Don't be late. From flapping birds to the skies they know. He's even writing words in the fresh fallen snow. So many callers, the hotline is booming. Noah's the best when his J-plan is blooming. He takes a photo in the same old way, but it feels brand new every day. Picture so nice, it's changing the game. Hanging on the wall in a Samsung frame. So call the hotline, don't be clever. The verse may be ending, but Lumberland's forever. Taking self-portraits every day. Noah Kalina, he's here to stay. Okay, that's it. Hope you like it. Thank you.
Peter. Wow. Well, first things first, it's nice to hear from you again. We were all worried about you, so I'm glad to have you back. That was something. And, you know, you got it in there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you found, those details that you know me. Somehow you know everything about me. And I'm flattered and terrified simultaneously. So thank you for that. I mean, anytime I make something that inspires other people to do something, I think that's success. And Peter, you make me feel successful. Well, that's the show. That's it. That's all the calls for today. We've got so many more coming up, and don't be scared. Call that number. Leave a message. You can also record a voice memo on your phone and email it to me. Someone sent me a message on Instagram, voice memo there, which was very cool. First time I got that, but I had to use software to download it because you couldn't just. But whatever method you choose to do, I will figure it out and put it in the timeline, and we'll get to it. Maybe if it's a good question. Even if it's not a good question, I hear it, I think about it, and then it sticks with me. So I appreciate it. Do the stuff, like, subscribe, and we will see you next week. Maybe.